again. Welcome back to another Quick Clips. So this week, we're going to talk about something that I obviously get the most questions about from teachers, which is bucket drumming. How do you start your own kind of bucket drumming club at your school? And I know a lot of teachers who have gotten the funding for it, because it's quite cheap, obviously, and now have the supplies, but don't really know where to start, right? Really where to go from there. And then I have some schools who don't have supplies. So I have a few just kind of tips for you on how to get started, and then just answering some of the questions that I've gotten from teachers, the most frequently asked questions I've gotten from teachers. So here we go, let's do it. So first, let's talk about supplies. Now, I have with me here two kind of examples of buckets I use, and I'll kind of give you my pros and cons on each. First, I have this type of bucket here, which was donated to me by a parent's dad who works with oil, and so we had a bunch of these, which is awesome. These are kind of more similar to what you might find at like Home Depot, right? So you will have access to something like this. The thing I like about these, they're very durable, right? But the problem is they're super loud. And also, just being this little bit bigger than the buckets I use, they take up more room transporting, which is difficult, or storing in your case. So I love these for like a festival or camps, or with my students, something outside. But in classrooms, I use these buckets, which are ice cream buckets. They're much quieter, super easy to transport. I can stack I used to have an old Nissan Versa, and I could fit like 100 buckets in that Nissan Versa. So these are great for that. Also, it's an ice cream bucket, so they're dirt cheap. So dirt cheap, I get them for free usually. Just go to an ice cream parlor, and you can ask for them, and you might have to clean them out yourself, but that is the most cost-effective way to get a bucket. Also, they do break more easily, but because they're free, not really a big deal. So the only real cost that goes into it is the time it takes me to clean them out, but it's well worth it because, like I said, they're super quiet, super light, super easy to transport, and the kids have a great time with that. So there you go. For sticks, I use what we call seconds. So those are sticks that no longer, or can't be sold because they're warped a little bit, or they're chipped, or for whatever reason the company doesn't want to sell them. So I have a supplier who can get me those for cheap, and if you're interested, reach out to me and I can maybe get you in contact with that supplier as well, so you can get some cheap sticks for your school. Next, I want to talk about the number one question I get asked, which is about notation. So a lot of music teachers who are not drummers, and even then haven't really done bucket drumming, right? And they don't really know, how do I notate for my students what we're playing on our drums? So for me, I use kind of like 4 main sounds, really 3, but 4 main sounds on the bucket, right? So the first is obviously hitting the top, right? Just like that. That is, I just use a regular note head for that, right? Just normal. And then we use the sides, right? Now, for the sides, what I like to do, some teachers have done this and some method books do this, where they show different lines and spaces. So they might do like 3 lines, staff, and show that. I prefer using different note heads because I just feel that might be a bit easier for kids to read, and that way you don't actually have to have a staff available to do it. So I use a triangle note head for that. And then we have the rim. So I've done a bunch of different things with kids, but usually what I do is I'll do an X note head, but above the other notes. So I don't need a staff, I just show it above it for the rim. And then the fourth one we use, which we're going to use all the time, is a stick click. And that one, I use an X note head on the same line as the other notes. And that's a big thing in drumming, is if we're using the rim or a cymbal, it's usually above, right, because it's a higher pitched sound. But when we use stick clicks, it's usually on a kind of middle line or on the same line as like a snare drum. So that's kind of like the big thing with notating a bucket drum. Or that's at least the way that I do it, right? And it's fun for the kids to come up with their own symbols or for the note heads, right? Whatever they want. Now, when it comes to the beginning of how do you get started, like how do I even start this crazy journey with my students on doing a bucket drum thing? Well, obviously right now it's pretty, you could potentially get them to go out and get their own buckets, right? So they could do it at home. And then you'd have to supply the sticks, obviously. But for music, what I like to do is I like to write my own music for the students or get them to write their own music. So I know there are a lot of resources online that can provide bucket drumming, songs. But if you would like, you can reach out to me and I will write you a little easy groove for your class that will be something, using that notation I just described, that'll be something fun, easy for them to play, and I can write it in like 1 part or 2 part if you want it to be a little bit more challenging. But reach out to me and I'd be happy to write something for you. I promise it doesn't take me very long, and it'll be helpful to your students. So just reach out and let me know. If you have any questions about bucket drumming, also reach out. because obviously that's something that I like to do, and I'm fairly good at. So, so let me know, okay? Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week with another quick clip. Bye.